Today, I used every single SMG in Warzone so that I could find the best class setups for each gun. I'll be rating each of the guns out of 10, and at the end, I'll tell you which is the best SMG in Warzone. I started my journey off with the classic Modern Warfare MP5. This was once everyone's go-to SMG back on Verdansk. Now it's not nearly as popular, but I'll tell you, this gun still slaps. It doesn't really excel in any stat, but it just feels right to use. The Modern Warfare MP5 is like that friend who's always gonna treat you nice. But for real, this SMG is still underrated and has survived the test of time. I also much prefer the ADS build over the hipfire build, but this gun is a strong contender for my favorite in the game. Now, we have the bane of my existence. This gun nearly made me punch a hole through my monitor, and that gun is the CX-9. This SMG almost made me go blind from the insane amount of visual recoil. This is my pick for the worst SMG in the game. It doesn't have a good TTK, has high recoil, and you can usually only kill 1 to 2 people max with each clip. I'm not going to give you a class setup for this gun because no one, and I mean no one, should be subjected to using this monstrosity of a gun. Next up, I use the Uzi. This gun is the definition of mid. There's nothing really much to say about it. The Uzi always feels like it takes one more extra bullet to kill than it should, and I just feel so indifferent towards it. Obviously, it's a pretty iconic weapon, but it just doesn't really compete with the top SMGs and has never really been great. There are just so many better choices to use over the Uzi. The UMP, or its actual name, the Striker 45, is a pretty underrated SMG. Other than the fact it was once a monster of a weapon in past Call of Duties, the UMP is still worth using in 2022. The TTK is decent, but this is like the MP5 where it is just a reliable, feel-good gun to use. You might need to level this gun up, but in Modern Warfare it does not take long at all and could be a fun gun to switch it up with. Oh, and it also has an absolutely sick Batman camo that I'm pretty sure you get for free, which is a huge bonus. Now, the MP7 was once the king of sniper supports in Warzone. This was the SMG that was very strong at medium ranges and could still hold up in close range fights. After using the MP7 in 2022, I can say that it still hits hard at medium range, especially because of easily controllable recoil. It's not top tier, but it can be a decent pickup if you don't want to run an AR as your primary. It's literally the same as it was 2 years ago. However, this is my personal favorite Modern Warfare SMG and possibly the entire game. The Fennec or the Vector is easily my pick for the most underappreciated SMG in Warzone. If you use this terror of a gun, you will not lose any close range fights simply because of the fast time to kill. This gun does not even have recoil, which makes it extremely easy to use. The only drawback of the Fennec is the clip size. However, with sleight of hand, this becomes much more manageable. Please give the Fennec a try. I promise it will not let you down. Next up, I used the edgiest SMG in Warzone, which is the P90. You're really only going to use the P90 because it looks cool and it'll make you feel like you're different. But in reality, the P90 isn't that great and kind of falls into the lower tier of SMGs. This is an MW2. Put away the P90 and pick up a real SMG. The AUG, not to get confused with the AUG, or the AUGs, is an absolute range machine of an SMG. When I used the AUG, I was honestly shocked at how hard the SMG hits. I mean, I was literally melting guys at pretty long ranges, almost like I was using an AR. However, the mobility is seriously lacking and does make you feel quite slow. But the AUG is a pretty interesting SMG to use as it almost breaks out of the SMG category and is a hybrid of an AR and an SMG. My journey was then faced with the PP Bison. The PP Bison kind of had a resurgence after it got buffed a few months ago and is actually a really good SMG. The PP Bison has a solid time to kill, has low recoil, and pretty good mobility. It also has a very large make size as default, which then frees up a spot and allows you to use another attachment. This is definitely one of the best SMGs in Warzone, but it does not help against 3 rats in a corner. And finishing off the Modern Warfare SMGs, I use the ISO. I have nothing to say about this SMG. It doesn't excel at anything, isn't fun to use, and has a low ammo capacity. It's just a boring gun, to be honest. Just save yourself the time and use another SMG. Now, to start off the Cold War SMGs, I use the MP5. Sadly, this gun had me wishing I was using the Modern Warfare MP5 instead. This gun has a lot of recoil and doesn't have an amazing TTK. If you're using an MP5, it better be the Modern Warfare version, because the Cold War MP5 is like the less successful little brother who lives in the shadow of the older brother. Now, onto a real gun, the Milano. This was probably the most fun I had using out of all of the SMGs, simply because of the versatility of this gun. This is the jack of all trades. However, you want to use the 3x Milano build so that you can take advantage of the long range effectiveness as well as the short range fights. And on top of that, the Milano has a really crazy strafe speed with the 3x build, which allows you to glide in all of your fights. This may not be the meta SMG, but it is my favorite. When I saw that I had to use the AK-74U next, I thought this is just going to be another mid gun, but to my surprise, the AK-74U is actually pretty decent. If in my first game of ever using it I can drop like a 17, the gun can't be that bad. I remember it being terrible when Cold War came out, but it feels a lot better since then. It only has a really weird recoil pattern that just bends to the left, which is just like me. If the CX-9 was an annoying little kid, the KSP is his very slightly less annoying brother. The KSP-45 is absolutely terrible. Easily the worst aspect of the KSP is that there's recoil between the bullets of each burst. So if someone's just running in a straight line, you'll miss 2/3 of your burst because of the bullet velocity and the recoil of each bullet in a burst. This gun stinks. The Bullfrog is your best friend if you're looking for an SMG that's easy to use and still reasonably competitive. It's got low recoil, decent mobility, a good ammo capacity, and a decent TTK. This is just like another feel-good SMG, and it's pretty similar to the PP Bison. Give this a try if you want a reliable and easy SMG. The MAC-10 is still so good. I prefer running a faster mobility build in comparison to a traditional build, especially because the recoil is very manageable. But I really do think the MAC-10 can actually compete with the Vanguard SMGs. This is probably the most noob-friendly SMG as well, but it is still very good to use if you want to use it as your main sub. The MAC-10 is that one trusty pal that will never let you down. Other than the ugly bug skin that you get, the LC-10 is a seriously solid SMG. Pretty comparable to the MAC-10, it just kind of depends on your preference. The LC-10 is especially fire on console because of the very low visual recoil and it has really good iron sights. If you use this gun already, you know how good it really is. Next, I used the PPSH, sadly not the Vanguard version, which, spoiler, is wildly superior. This shitty SMG has so much visual recoil, I was getting flashbanged every time I shot. Once again, there really is no reason to use this SMG unless you want to play Warzone on hard mode. Please don't use this gun if you have epilepsy. The OTS-9, or more commonly known as the TikTok movement gun. If you stack the right attachments on this gun, you will feel like Usain Bolt. However, this gun is pretty mediocre with those attachments, which is really the only viable build on it. It just feels really shitty on console and does not feel consistent at all. This is a big thumbs down from me. Now, the Tech 9 made my life hell using it with no attachments. You need to have the full auto attachment to make this gun even usable. But honestly, once you get the attachment and the full setup, it's not terrible. But you can only kill 1 to 2 people max with each clip. Yeah, it's a cool gun, but being realistic, this is just another filler gun. The nail gun has an absolutely crazy TTK. Well, only if you're standing within 10 meters of who you're shooting. But you will not lose any close range fights, so if you play solos, this can be a great last resort gun. The absolute biggest issue with the nail gun is that you have to reload after every single kill, which forces you to have to hit all of your shots if you don't want to lose. This gun can be great, but I'd recommend it only for high skill players. This is probably the most forgotten SMG that isn't actually top tier, and that is the Lapa. The Lapa with this build has good strafe speed, but doesn't really handle like a traditional SMG. The Lapa has a competitive TTK and very low recoil, which automatically makes it strong. And this gun honestly just kind of clicks with some people and they fall in love with it. So make sure you give this SMG a try. And to finish off the Cold War SMGs, I used the UGR. You may not know this gun because it was only added to Cold War 1 month ago. However, I hate to ruin this mystery gun's hype, but it's really just alright. I'm really not sure why they added this gun so late, especially to Cold War, and then they just made it kinda underwhelming. To start off the Vanguard SMGs, I use the M1928 or the Tommy. The Tommy is kind of like the Vanguard version of the Bullfrog, where it's a decent SMG with a large ammo mag. That being said, the mobility is pretty trash and the TTK is nothing special. Maybe only use the Tommy if you watch The Godfather and you want to be in the mob. Now, if you want to feel like Sonic, the Sten is what you need to start running. The mobility on the Sten is insane, especially if you want to run the gung-ho hipfire build, but that being said, I much prefer the ADS build, which I mean slightly slower, but really transforms this SMG into a great secondary. Big thumbs up for me. That's how the MP40 makes me feel. I really have no clue why so many people still use this SMG like it's meta. It was the best SMG for a few months, but now it's so lackluster, you gotta be so boring to still use this gun. Stop living in the past and either pick up a real meta SMG, or at least use an SMG that's fun to use. Are you tired of having to aim down sight every fight? Or is your finger sore? Well then you should be using the Hipfire PPSH build and absolutely smoke everyone you see. This build is so much fun as it has like zero recoil even with the crazy fast fire rate. This definitely has shades of the old Modern Warfare MP5 where the Hipfire build was really viable. This PPSH is definitely superior to the other PPSH. Other than the most stupid name for a gun, the Owen gun does not disappoint. This is still a top 3 SMG in Warzone and has proven its place to stay in the meta. Even though there's a decent amount of recoil, it is still super easy to control, and that is really this gun's only downfall. If you aren't a super high level player and you still want to use a meta SMG, this would probably be my choice. You don't have to have a type to like the Type 100. The Type 100 has amazing shave speed, good mobility, and a great TTK. However, with only a 36 bullet mag, it makes it very tricky to push full squads. There's also a decent bit of recoil which makes it very difficult to use anywhere past short range. The gun has great stats and is definitely top tier, but personally it just doesn't really click with me. Well gun. The well gun is my favorite Vanguard SMG simply because of how good it feels to use it. You will learn the recoil over time just by using it, which allows it to be used in slightly medium ranges. However, the movement speed from this build made me feel like I was actually on 120 FOV, especially since this gun is so small and doesn't take up a lot of your screen. This is a big thumbs up. Next up, I use the Armadillo. I don't know how to pronounce this gun, so that's what I'm gonna call it. However, the Armadillo is actually the second best SMG in Warzone in my opinion. It's got a very good TTK, fast fire rate, not bad recoil, and good mobility. There really is no drawbacks to this SMG. It is seriously an amazing gun, but it is only second best to the absolute meta gun right now. And that is the H4 Blixen. The H4 Blixen has such an interesting set of attachments where you can increase the damage and the fire rate with certain barrels, so there's many different builds that you can actually use. However, this gun has a lot of recoil with the most meta build I would say, but that is just something you're gonna have to put up with, especially because of this insane TTKs you can reach with this gun. If you are a high skill player looking for the absolute best of the best right now, the H4 Blixen is your gun. So if I had to choose the best SMG right now in Warzone, that would be the H4 Blixen. However, this is just kind of like a new meta gun, which I feel like could be nerfed very soon. But if you're looking for an SMG that will last you a long time and in my opinion has always been top tier, I would say still the best SMG is the MAC 10. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a good day.